another Drink with Eddie Irvine. Eddie, what are we having today? For me, it's some Austrian Gösser beer, actually Radler, which is lemonade, so we're similar, I guess.
Baroni.
Eddie, I want to talk with you today about the life of an ex-F1 driver. Basically, before we really get into it, what have you been up to since you quit driving Formula One?
My main thing is, well, I guess I look after my funds. That's my main thing is investing the money I made in motor racing. The one I'm personally involved in mostly is building, houses in Miami. I build beautiful waterfront homes. I'm the designer, and I put a team together that we've built I've done about 22 houses here in Miami, bought and sold, so it's a good business.
Okay.
And that's what I'm personally involved in. I have software, I have shipping, I have sports center, I have bars, I have other stuff, but this is the one I'm really personally involved in.
Yeah. When you say designing houses, are you actually architecture and stuff as well?
I am. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Frank Lloyd Wright, as is probably anybody. But it's getting tough. Actually, it's a bit like Formula One. The rules are so strict now. There's no such thing as architecture, and they keep complaining about the houses are all looking like boxes, but they've got rules that make it where it's impossible to do anything other than a box. So it's a lot less interesting now than it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm kind of getting bored with it now. The next 3 houses I'm doing are exactly the same because there's nothing to do because the rules are so stupid.
Eddie, when we ran through a list of names who we would like to do this format with, when your name came up, one of my colleagues said, because he's like the Charlie Harper of ex-Formula One drivers. Is that something you would agree?
The what?
The Charlie Harper, the guy from Two and a Half Men, Charlie Sheen?
Oh, yeah. I've never watched it, so I don't. I know I've seen clips of it. I've never really watched it, so I don't know what he gets up to.
Yeah, basically it's a guy who has a lot of money, a house in, I believe it's even in Miami. I'm not sure about that one, to be honest. He's a jingle rider, earns a lot of money, and there's women going in and out all day.
Well, I wouldn't say there's women going out in and out all day, but I have had probably more than my fair share. Let's say that. But yeah, I've done well. Motor racing was very good to me, and since then I've done well in property and other stuff. So I can't complain too much.
Yep. I don't know if you are already able to talk about stuff like that, but how much money have you made from your Formula One career? A gross estimate.
No, listen, I don't want to put real figures on it because it's not polite to talk about cash. But no, I did very well. My last years were probably north of, is it 10 figures? Yeah, I think it would be 10 figures. So, no, I did very well. And, it was great. One of the things about Formula One is you don't pay much tax because you're earning the money in all these different countries, and the contracts are set up in a way where you don't pay very much tax. In fact, only the last couple of years did the governments catch on to how to tax us. So, it was a very good base to launch a business career from. It allowed me to make some mistakes and still have plenty of cash to keep going and invest properly. And as the sad thing is, as you get older, you really understand things a lot better and you make a lot less mistakes. But you wish you'd that knowledge when you're younger, but you can't. But it's one of the things. I come into business. I started business very young. When I was a kid, I was buying and selling potatoes, and then I was buying and selling cars, and then I started in houses at the same time I was racing. So I was always involved in business. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge of it. Motor racing is a big challenge, but you're limited by your talent. While business, you can hire people that have more talent than you. So in certain areas like interior design and art, I have people that advise me because I can't do everything. So it's like being a team boss. They don't need to know everything. They just need to know who to pick that does know the important parts.
Yeah.
So I find it much more I can achieve much more in business than I could in motor racing as a driver.
When you refer to mistakes, what was the sort of mistakes that cost you the most money?
Well, I really only made one big mistake, and that was a con man who got inside my circle, and I lost probably 4 or 5 million euros on that deal. But it was a very good lesson, and since then I've been much more cautious with who I have around me, who I let in, and who I do business with. One of the things is you don't do business with people a lot poorer than you, because you're setting yourself up to be go through some pain.
Yeah. Eddie, there's this myth from your Formula One, or obviously from your Jaguar days, when there was a board meeting on Ford level, and someone asked who's the highest paid Ford employee, and someone came up, I believe it must have been Jacques Nasser, said it's Edmund Irvine, when William Ford, that's the way it was put outside, asked who the fuck is this Edmund Irvine? do you know if that story is true?
I think it's true. It's funny, Jacques Nasser, he has 2 houses very close to me in Miami. It's funny because I remember whenever he was the boss of Ford, like he bought Stewart Grand Prix, and he massively overpaid for it, and he massively overpaid for PI, the electronics company that was involved with the Formula One team, and he overpaid for everything. And then I remember I was sitting here in Miami, and realtor came to me, he goes, "Oh, the house just down the road just sold for $5 million. I was that sold for $5 million? I went, who's crazy enough to pay $5 million for that? This is like 15 years ago. And he goes, oh, it's a guy called Jacques Nasser. I'm like, that makes sense. And then he bought the one beside it. But it was good because it pushed the price. Once that's over $5 million, all my stuff started going, everything goes up. Miami's been a great investment over the last 15 years.
Yeah. Obviously, your Jaguar deal was one of your better ones in Formula One, I guess. Is it partly because being an ex-Ferrari driver just makes you richer in contract negotiations?
Well, yes, and your profile is much higher. Once you're a Ferrari driver, your world profile is much higher. You get in the papers a lot more. And that year I'd been qualifying. My average qualifying position was 2/10 off Michael. I was ahead of Michael actually in the championship. Obviously, he had broke his leg, but I think actually right up to that when Michael broke his leg, I was very close to him in the points. So it's been a good year for me, and they needed a big brand driver, and I was the biggest one around at the time that was available, I guess. So they had to get me. And it was a good contract for me. It was 3 years, and it was a lot of money back then. So it was good for everyone. The only problem was they didn't invest in the infrastructure of the team. They thought painting a car green and putting Jaguar on the side was going to do it all. We didn't even have a wind tunnel, which was ridiculous. And they promised they would have one, and it was going to be at Silverstone, and it all just fell apart because they just didn't understand Formula One. They paid so much for the Stewart team. They paid, I think, $100 and something million for really the lease on a factory in Milton Keynes. It was a crazy amount of money for a team that had no infrastructure.
Yeah. Exactly, a lot of money, obviously. One thing I want to ask about your deal with Jaguar is it true that you asked Ferrari, who already agreed on with Rubens Barrichello, to delay their announcement so you could tell Jaguar I wasn't fired? Basically, you had everything in your hands. Or your manager, which was Enrico Zannarini at that time.
We had to maneuver. We had to maneuver, that's for sure. We weren't in the strongest position, but I ended up walking into the meeting, Enrico having agreed 2 years, and I said, I'm not signing for 2 years, I want 3 years. And I got my 3rd year, and I got $2 million extra in my 3rd year. So I was, financially it was a great contract, and potentially it was going to be an amazing thing for Jaguar, me, and Formula One. Yeah. It just didn't work out because of the lack of understanding on Jaguar's part, of Ford's part, really, because it was Ford. They just didn't understand Formula One.
Yeah. And one final question on deals and Formula One, and that topic is, you've mentioned in the first time we've talked about doing this, that you've been a Marlboro ambassador, but you haven't been smoking. So what's the sort of most ridiculous PR arrangements that you had to do in your career? Is there any more of that?
Well, the Marlboro thing, you know, it's really, I'm about live and let live. If someone wants to smoke, let them smoke. You know, it's obviously a serious health issue, so I don't advise anyone to smoke. But if someone wants to, you can't ban it. We've tried banning drugs. People still do drugs. So I just think, you got to make everything legal and educate people as best you can. Education is the key to everything. Like, you see countries where education's bad, and you see the mess the country's in. But they keep education bad for a reason, so that people at the top can steal all the money. So the number one thing that countries have got to do, instead of sending tanks and planes, is send schools and teachers.
All right, Eddie, thanks a lot for sharing. See you soon, and thanks for watching.